And thank you so much for joining us. This is All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. And welcome as always to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. So joining us in this segment of the program to talk about the pollution of the Rio CObre, we have the Vice Chair of the St. Catherine Parish Development Committee, Kestenard Gordon. Also with us is Head of the School of Public Health and Health Technology at the University of Technology, Professor Winston Davidson. And in fact, let me just say that we did also invite a representative of Windalco to be here. NEPA also told us they were not available for this program. We'll have to follow up. Later on in the program, we'll be having Opposition Senator Lambert Brown and member of the Love March movement, Casey Garvey, and Gleaner contributor columnist Lipton Matthews. Before all of that though, Kalisha has this overview.
From brown and murky a week ago to light green on Tuesday, there are visible changes at the Rio CObre in St. Catherine. This after the water became contaminated on October 15, leading to a fish kill and a breakout of illnesses in nearby communities. When we were here a week ago, dead fish lined the riverbanks and the air was thick with the smell of decay. Yesterday, the bad odor was gone. So you would have thought that the residents would literally be breathing a sigh of relief. But they're still not happy.
This thing is slackness going on right now in our country. We need justice.
Daniel Gale was among the scores of residents who turned out to this church in Kent Village on October 18 for a meeting with their lawyer. It came after Member of Parliament for the area, Natalie Nita, announced her intention to sue bauxite mining company Windalco on behalf of the residents. The National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA has linked the contamination to effluent flowing from Windalco after heavy rain.
We don't see nobody from Windalco, and right now we're very distraught and feel upset about what's going on. Nobody not using the river right now, so everybody is just stressed out right now because most of the people in the river are livelihood. Swim spot, fish spot, and all of the fish them dead out.
When we first visited the community, residents told us they had sought medical treatment for their illnesses. But when we went back to the community on Tuesday, this is what we saw. This child is just 1 year old.
We eat the fish Tuesday and then the Wednesday, and so when we look on our skin, it never so bad, but continue every day, it does come like this. My mother bring him to doctor, and when they go to the doctor, like them say, something in our blood or something, we don't know. Because it should be in the water.
But while it is still not ideal, the fishermen told me it would still be good enough for fishing, but still they have to look on from a distance.
We have to go way out about a place near Akazal, how much mile to go fishing.
Like Daniel, most of the people in Kent Village depend on the Rio CObre to make a living. Fishing, the main occupation. So when the river is out of bounds, it affects their family life.
I don't have any transportation, so no and then I follow my friend. I'm on a vehicle go to Akasala and place, but I have to find something else. I buy and sell certain things and still go and hospital, feed my kids them.
But while they're going miles to find new fishing spots, customers remain skeptical.
We go up there, we man and get fish from Akasala, and no people now buy it because they say Rio CObre and the people them say no want to buy it. So that definitely slope business right now, and we know say further down it have a slope business to all when things come back to normal.
Which is why the fishermen want speedy compensation from the government.
We start clean up and now we're not getting a response from nobody. We want to know how we clean up funds ago.
From Bagwa Bridge to Damet, crocodile no. So all we need to clean what we see crocodile. So it's a very risky thing and dangerous. So right now, we don't know what it's going to work out.
We also learned on Tuesday that Kent Village is not the only community where residents have been suffering since the contamination. This is Irish Pen near Job Lane in St. Catherine.
We must eat fish every week outside and make money every week to supply our family. And right now the things slow down. You see me? A way out we have to try to get them things, and it's difficult because transportation hard to get, because bicycle and walk foot.
This water is coming straight from the Rio CObre. It's what the residents of Irish Pen and Job Lane depend on for fishing and also for domestic purposes.
When the toxin come in the water, it now got us leave just because of running water. And the fish them absorb it. We're not dead and we're living them absorb it. So them fish there, maybe it have to go through them system first and then come back out of them system before we can go. And we are not scientists, so we don't know how long exactly it's going to take. So we just left it for months.
Kalisha Williams for All Angles.
So let me contextualize this a little bit, because I have here a statement that NEPA had issued saying that it had served 3 enforcement notices on Windalco for discharging improperly treated effluent into the Old John's Gully in Yorton St. Catherine. NEPA said that the discharge of improperly treated effluent is a serious threat to natural resources because it can contaminate the soil, the surface water, underground water, and damage flora and fauna, meaning plants and animals. And NEPA also said it's a serious threat to public health because it's corrosive and harmful to humans on contact. The date on this, 2011. Another story in terms of NEPA serving an enforcement notice on Windalco following an effluent overflow at the Yorton plant, which contaminated several waterways, including the Rio CObre. And NEPA said at the time that the effluent contained a caustic chemical that posed a risk to public health and natural resources. The date on this, nearly 1 year ago, 2018. Let me ask the Professor of Public Health to start us off. So, Prof, caustic chemical being discharged into waterways, what kind of possible impact on public health are we talking about?
Well, first of all, the caustic chemical that they're talking about has to do with the bauxite effluent that contains caustic soda, so it's sodium hydroxide, which is extremely, contact with it or any ingestion of it can cause quite a lot of problems. Problems such as the aura, the mouth, esophagus, stomach, etc. If they ingest quite a lot of this effluent, they can get severe pain, vomiting. They can vomit with a lot of retching, and they may even vomit up blood. They also can have damage to their esophagus, to the mouth, and to the oral cavity. It is also the caustic soda. The pH is extremely high, and as a result, that is what gives that particular effect. If it is also corrosive, in the sense.
Saw who said those children.
Well, it is corrosive, so therefore a child, the skin of a child is very thin, and therefore the child would respond to it more readily. That's if you use the water at the time that is corrosive. It also contains elements of redmond. You're talking about iron oxide, you're talking about titanium, you're talking about aluminum oxide, you're talking about magnesium, quite a number of heavy metals, and those heavy metals themselves are very, very dangerous if ingested over a long period of time. How is this come? How did this come about? I think that they have some settling ponds. The bauxite company has some settling ponds, and when you have heavy rains, you have overflow of this into the river, and this is what perhaps has caused it. It means that because of climate change, you do have, in fact, extremes of temperature and extreme of weather, and therefore the bauxite companies will have to take the necessary measures to increase the barriers to prevent the thing from overflowing, just in case you have.
Yes, that exact point was made 1 year ago, though.
Yes.
When the last.
The fact of the matter is that this problem, we're looking at the literature, it goes back all the way. I've looked at literature in the 1970s when a lot of research has been done. The last research was done in 2012. And the data from the 2012 shows contamination in the river. I mean, the particular river is about a 30-kilometer river, and they have done samples at different stages of the river and found that the microorganisms there, are contaminated, and so therefore you have different stages at which are over different times, and that the effluent gets into the river.
The microorganisms are contaminated.
The microorganisms
Right.
that they call them macro invertebrates.
Yes, but
These
that's
are
the point
things.
I was going to make.
Yes,
So
yes.
does it then go up the food chain?
Right up the food chain, yes.
So
Because
in other words, fish or
the
whatever
fish
other
will,
animals
yes,
that eat
yes,
them.
yes. And so therefore, over time, if you eat these fish that are contaminated with the high level of aluminum, iron, etc., this will in fact affect you. And so therefore, it is something that needs very, very urgent attention.
Hold that
Now the
thought
question
for me. Hold that
is,
thought for me, Prof. Let me just go to break. Yes, we're at our first break. Our hashtag is TBJ All Angles. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you so much for staying with us. All Angles continues. Remember, our hashtag is TVJ All Angles. We're talking about pollution of the Rio Cobre by effluent from Windalco, the most recent spill just about 2 weeks or so ago. And just before the break, Professor Winty Davidson was saying that this is something that requires urgent action. Mr. Gordon, let me bring you in here, because listening to that report that Kelisha did, the residents certainly don't feel that they're being given any urgent attention. Is that right?
Yes, and that is regrettable. The various state agencies are very lacking and nonchalant in their response. There's so many of them who are falling down, including NEPA. NEPA gave permission to Windalco to unleash certain amount of this substance into the river. What
Controlled amounts.
Controlled amount, they call it. No, my argument is, does NEPA have any scientific evidence to suggest or to prove the effects that this will have on the general population? You're talking about approximately 1 million people who are consuming this water. You're talking about the people's livelihood. You're talking about the impact on even the birds who come down to look the fishes, right? So it is a huge nuisance. The people are angry. It is a systematic poisoning of the environment. It is a chemical warfare that has been unleashed on the Jamaican population.
Wow, strong words,
and
Mr. Gordon.
If this is not done, if efforts are not being done locally to correct it, the people are going to, they have no choice. They will have to take the matter into their own hands other than a demonstration.
Windalco said in a statement that it has been implementing all required measures to secure the waterways from environmental impact. Prof. Davidson, we heard the fishermen there talking about their loss of livelihood, and one of the questions people always have is, you know, the water looks better. Does that mean it's clean now? How do you know when it's been flushed?
no, the only way you're going to know is if you do the necessary tests. The research done by Hislop and Nesbeth in 2012 shows contamination. And we can go back. Several studies have shown that, in fact, the contamination of the river at or below where the spillway from the pond comes into the river. Now, it is clear that there has to be something done about it.
Like what, though? Because
First of all, I don't know whether NEPA could give Windalco the authority to use the river as a spillway for the toxic material that they have there.
Why does that raise concerns?
No, it just doesn't make any sense.
Why?
It doesn't make any sense because you're not managing wastewater properly, especially toxic wastewater. It means that, I mean, you know that it's there for human, the river is there for human consumption, right? I mean, if that is a permission granted, that must stop now, right? It is impossible to manage wastewater in a river that you know people use for domestic purposes. That must stop, right? The next thing is that the people who are responsible for it, right, have to give an account. In other words, if the persons who have been victims of it in the community must in fact get some form of compensation. That's the only way that you're going to be able to deal with this properly. But you see, this is symptomatic of myriad of other problems associated with the management of wastewater in this country. For example, whenever you have a flood, what happens is that in agriculture, if there's agricultural lands, you have flooding leading to the contamination of rivers and streams by fertilizers or by pesticides, etc. These are also toxic substances and also have a major effect on the livelihood of people who use these rivers. And it is going to get worse. The reason why it's going to get worse is because we know, and we have already seen the pattern, that because of climate change, what happens is that you have extremes of weather patterns. You have drought, and you have massive amount of rains, flooding, etc. And so therefore it is going to happen again. So the management of your wastewater is extremely important.
The issue of compensation, you mentioned, Mr. Gordon, to your knowledge, have residents of the area ever got compensation?
Yes, and this is what happens for many years. They contaminate the river, and then they come on the side and they give the people a little pittance to quiet them. But this time, it's not going to go that way. It cannot. It's
meaning what? What's going to happen instead, you're saying?
Well, the Member of Parliament for North Central has announced the legal action, and the Parish Development Committee is also very actively engaged in the process of carrying out legal action against Windalco on behalf of those communities like Torspen, Irish Pen, Job's Lane, Thompson Pen, Riverley, all of those communities that have been affected. The people are disappointed, they are angry, and it cannot continue.
Why no, though? Because as you said, this has been happening over and over. So why
I came up on a roadblock in the Bagua Gorge. The people blocked the roads, and I appealed to them. There was an ambulance coming, and I appealed to them to clear the road, and then I will allow their voices to be heard. The people responded, and I have an obligation to carry this message to the world on behalf of the people. I cannot sway from what I am doing, and I know the Member of Parliament will not sway either. When you look at the number of state agencies, Water Commission purchases the water from the National Irrigation Commission. You have perhaps the Bureau of Standards. These people, do they check the water? Water Commission has been purchasing this water from irrigation. What obligation does Water Commission have to ensure that the water is safe for the population? And by virtue...
Except the Water Commission always says its water is potable. They do say they do tests. Professor, are there any red flags there for you?
Well, put it this way.
To respond to Mr. Gordon's concern.
Put it this way. When the Water Commission tests, it tests the water from source, right? And and they go through the whole water quality control system, and then it goes through the pipes to the particular homes. Now, if the contamination is at source, then you can challenge the Water Commission. But these waters are tested every month. There's a report at the Parish Council on the quality of this potable water. So they don't just, the Water Commission doesn't take water from a river, right, without it being treated. It's treated and potable water. And so therefore, the Water Commission is not necessarily a responsible agency for this. However, what is necessary is that the rivers that are used for domestic purposes must not have any contamination coming from industry, agriculture or any one of these major plants, they have to find a way to pay for the management of their wastewater, because invariably this wastewater does contaminate and does contain massive amounts of toxic substances.
When you listen to Mr. Gordon, what do you hear?
No, I hear a level of frustration, right? I hear also advocacy on behalf of the people who depend on the river for the source of livelihood. And so therefore I think that it must be possible, right, to be able to deal with this through some particular agency. Now, if you ask me, NEPA has never been funded in the way that it ought to be funded, because NEPA, which came out of the National Resource Conservation Division and is the agency dealing with that, cannot be the only agency responsible for it, right? The whole question of pollution and control and climate change is a national problem which the government must find a way, right, to deal with it in an integrated, systematic, organized way.
Nearly out of time, Mr. Gordon, I'm going to give you the final word. What happens now?
We're calling for an early warning system to be set up in the gorge, meaning when NEPA goes there and determines that the water is dangerous, there must be a system to warn the people downstream to get out of the water. Children are in there playing. They're using it for all kinds of purposes. So therefore, there has to be an early warning system working with the police in Bagua, perhaps, to trigger off the system so that they can be alerted. We are appealing right now. We are appealing for the communities to come together. We need unity in the communities, because this is the only way we are going to be able to fight this horrible monster sitting at the foot of Mount Rasa, right? And we are calling for the government to respond to the needs of the people. We are calling for the opposition leader to respond to the needs of the people. The people are in desperate conditions.
Very quickly, Prof. I'm just about out of time.
The problem is much larger than that. The bauxite company is just symptomatic of the poor wastewater management.
Yes.
Right? I mean, the dumping of garbage, or surface dumping of garbage, right? Calling it a landfill. Water, when it rains, the leachate goes and contaminates the underground water supply, right, with toxic heavy metals, mercury, arsenic, etc., that eventually comes up in your vegetables.
And what are the long-term effects of that?
The long-term effects of that is cancer, right? I mean, we know that the toxic effects of all of these, Alzheimer's, once it's in the food chain, and these heavy metals, they do affect you in a fundamental way. And so therefore we have to begin to be environmentally conscious and understand that it is necessary at this particular point in time to have a not national debate, because we have passed that stage, right? For the particular industries, the institutions that are related to it, health, local government, and all the other industries, Bureau of Standards, etc., are necessary to put in place a comprehensive plan for the management of wastewater in this country, the management of effluent, not only effluent from industry, but also effluent from sewage.
Remember, the ships come here to
effluent from sewage.
Water.
Yes, effluent from sewage. And the only good thing that I can tell you, right, is that the public health system that has been in place over the years and the monitoring that has taken place for potable water, right, has come true, and we can still drink water from the pipe.
Gonna have to leave it there, Prof. Yes. We're certainly going to be coming back to this. So many important issues. Thank you both so much, and stay tuned, because when we come back now in our second half of the program, we're talking about paternity leave. Is it really necessary, and how does it work? Stay tuned.